This is Lisa from Mobile Tech Review, and it's Smackdown time. This one's going to be controversial. It always is whenever we have Android versus iOS. We have the iPhone 6 Plus. We have the Samsung Galaxy Note 4. Both really big phones. Phablets, whatever you want to call them. 5.5-inch display, 5.7-inch display. We're going to compare them now. Well, doubtless, this will get you guys up in arms at each other in the comments section. Be kind to each other. Get along. You know, I was actually impressed. I was on XDA developers forums, and I was seeing folks say, well, nice things about the iPhone 6 Plus in a Note 4 thread. Wow. Likewise, I've seen some Mac forums where people are saying nice things about the Galaxy Note 4. So you know what? These days, people mix and match. Sometimes you have an iPhone and you have an Android tablet or vice versa. They both have their merits. That gets to the first point. If you are a diehard Android or iOS person, you love the way it works, you couldn't imagine anything better, well, then go with the operating system you like best. Really, nothing is going to change your mind so much. However, if you're open-minded, if you like the best of both worlds, keep watching, and you might help you decide which of these you like better. Obviously, both very big screen phones here, and surprisingly, the iPhone with the 5.5-inch display is a little bit taller than the Galaxy Note 4. 6.22 inches versus 6.03 inches. Neither of these is petite by any means. It takes a roomy pocket to hold them, or a good-sized hand. And still, phablets are all the rage now. Everybody's used to them. So I think you know what you're getting into if you want that big screen experience. I suspect Apple was kind of flaunting the size, right? They didn't exactly try to make this very small. They want you to feel like you got the most humongous iPhone ever. It is humongous. Skinny. It is skinnier than the Galaxy Note 4. That's a double-edged sword in terms of having something to actually hold on to. Well, it's a little bit harder to grip. Also, the curved edges, which look awful nice, you got the usual aluminum unibody design on the iPhone, can make it a bit slippery. And the straighter edges on the Note 4, now I have pretty big hands, so they don't gouge me at all. My hand wraps around fine. I find that a little easier to hold. However, which takes up more room in your pocket, you'll feel the thickness. Obviously, the iPhone's a little slimmer there. I don't think anybody's going to argue that the iPhone 6 is one little slippery bar of soap. When it comes to aesthetics, Samsung has upped their game. They have put metal around the edges, genuine real metal, even though we've got some colored finish on the top to match the phone, available in your choice of charcoal black or this very bright white color right here. Still on the back, we have plastic, and you know, there's a reason for plastic. It's lighter and it allows for a removable battery, accessible storage card slot, stuff like that. But for those of you who are into I like the beautiful metal unibody phones. I like the HTC One M8. I like the iPhone. Even give me glass, like in a Sony Xperia Z. You're probably going to like the look of the iPhone better. The design maybe is a little bit controversial because they finally left the Leica-inspired squared-off design, but I think it's a pretty nice phone. Antenna lines and all. And the Note is not a bad-looking phone. I think this is the most tasteful phone that they've made yet. In terms of design subtlety, no bright, chromy look on it. Nothing too jarring on the look. So when it comes to aesthetics, that's up to you. Also, if you're just going to put a case on anyway and not enjoy the beauty of the phone, which most of us have to do because we don't want to drop them, it becomes a moot point, maybe. I think people do still care a lot about the way their phones look. When it comes to the display, and as ever, you know, in every Android versus iPhone thing, there's always going to be higher-end specs on the Android phone. That's how Android makers fight back at the iPhone. They can say, we do this better, we do that better, we have higher numbers, and so on. So that's going to continue here. We have our 2560 by 1440 display on the Samsung Galaxy Note 4. Super AMOLED as ever. Samsung makes the Super AMOLED displays in the world, and they always go with that for those zingy bare and live colors. Here we have an IPS Full HD 1920 by 1080 display. So 401 ppi versus 515 ppi. With the rule of thumb being that around 325 ppi, the average person holding the phone at a normal usage distance can't see individual pixels. When you're getting into the 400s and above, it's really a moot point. I don't care how awesome your eyes are. You're going to have to start whipping out a microscope to see the difference. Also, with Super AMOLED displays, they have fewer subpixels, just the way the technology works. So to achieve that neurotic level of sharpness, so when you're looking at text so you don't see any color fringing, they really need to increase the PPI a bit on a Super AMOLED display. Now, in terms of viewing angles, they're both quite good. It's always hard to tell on a video camera, but they really are quite good, and there's not much color shift. brightness shift is about all you're going to see. Still very usable. Outdoors, the Galaxy can go up to like 750 nits of brightness, which is nominally higher than the iPhone 6 Plus, but also in part to compensate for Super AMOLED's not looking so great outdoors. And what it does is almost a bizarre-looking, slightly Instagram-y thing, where the brightness, contrast, distortion is very noticeable. If you're taking a photo, it may not help you as much as you would think. The iPhone just is quite viewable outdoors. It's easier in sunlight to take a picture outside with an iPhone still. But this is Samsung's best job yet of making it outdoor viewable, and certainly for everyday use when you're navigating your UI, looking at icons, looking to see should you answer that call or not, it does the job just fine. With Super AMOLED, you're going to get those better-than-life colors. This is Samsung's best color accuracy display. The delta E from absolute correct calibration is very good this time around. So we don't have a distortion where it's particularly amping the blues or the greens or anything like that. So it's very nice. You get those really great blacks, very good contrast, amazing contrast. But the iPhone has very good color accuracy, complete sRGB coverage. It's bright, it's clear, it's crisp. Both of these are very pleasant displays. It's really going to come down to what do you like better? Do you like Super AMOLED or do you like the IPS look? It's really, up to you in that case as to which you prefer. The sharpness and clarity. For example, I like reading the best on an IPS display. I like watching movies and getting those better-than-life colors on a Super AMOLED display. For those of you who like to have swappable batteries, Samsung is always the champion of that. And yes, this back peels off, and you watch our full review of it, you can see that. Reveals a 3220 milliamp hour battery that's in there. You can pop it out, put in another one, micro SD card slot, and micro SIM card slot in there. So for those of you who like to be able to swap batteries, good times right here with the Note. As ever with the iPhone, sealed inside, no expandable storage. If you want to extend run times, there are Lightning port USB battery packs that you can use to charge this guy up externally. So no swapping the battery inside, but you can carry an external battery. While we're looking at the back, there's the camera, 8 megapixel right there with the two-tone flash, and on our Galaxy Note we have a 16 megapixel, double the pixels. As we've learned from looking at a whole lot of just straight on cameras in our camera reviews and camera phones, pixels, number of megapixels, aren't everything. They help though if you want to do really big enlargements. If you're looking at print, you want to do an 8 by 10, I'd always go for the more megapixels. Apple has always does a crazy good job with their cameras. It's just insane. Given the fact that there's very few manual controls, it just snaps very reliable, high-quality shots. Samsung has a very good automatic mode, too, and they have lots of other modes. So for those of you who like to play around with modes and effects and all that sort of thing, Samsung's fun. It has a lot of manual controls as well. You don't really have to use them, which is a good thing. Now, they're a dead heat. Outdoors, taking pictures in good light, these both take really nice photos. Both have optical image stabilization, helps because it's a big phone, so when you do things just like tap the screen to take a picture, you're barn dooring it, you're moving a little bit, so that can help with it. When it comes to low light, Apple does better. I'm talking to your living room at night with just a couple of incandescent light bulbs on, not even a bar, which is super duper dark or something like that. It just takes more detailed pictures, better color, less noise. Samsung has improved their game over the Galaxy S5, which did things like, oh my god, hold the camera still, wait, we're taking the picture. Not so much here anymore, but still it doesn't fare as well in low light. When it comes to the front cameras, 3.7 megapixel camera on the Samsung Galaxy Note 4 versus 1.2 megapixels on the iPhone. In this case, the megapixels do help because we're talking about so few megapixels that that's a huge percentage increase right there. And as a selfie camera, if you're into that, given the selfie features that are on the Samsung and the higher quality camera, it's better. The iPhone's not bad by any means. It's perfectly nice looking. It works with FaceTime. FaceTime's a big selling point for those of you who are into the Apple ecosystem too, but not quite as sharp. When it comes to horsepower and performance, nominally the Samsung, like many Android phones on the market, would appear to be the faster one. In synthetic benchmarks, however, they're pretty much in a dead heat. This one has the new Snapdragon 805. That's a quad-core CPU, 2.7 gigahertz. Only a little bit faster than the Snapdragon 801 that's used in other Android flagships that are a bit older than that. 3 gigs of RAM. Now, to be fair, Samsung always has a little more RAM because they have a very heavy UI overlay with TouchWiz and a lot of add-ons to the experience right there, so they need the extra RAM. iOS is very optimized, as ever very quick. 1 gig of RAM works just fine on benchmarks. Like I said, 3D and computational, you're looking at pretty much the same thing. As to which feels faster, You Android folks are going to have a little cow here, but I hate to say it, TouchWiz, even though it's gotten a lot better, there is just occasional lag. Now, it's hard to make it do it at any given point. Just sometimes when you're doing something, there's just a little micro lag every once in a while. And I'm sure there'll be software updates that are probably going to tune it up a bit. And the iPhone 6 Plus is just darn quick all the time. The iPhone has a 64-bit processor versus the 32-bit in the Samsung. Right now, it depends if there's any 64-bit optimized apps. The core Apple apps, they are, but third-party apps, not so much. So that's not really a big deal now. A couple of years from now, by the time the Snapdragons are into 64-bit, we'll probably see more optimizations where I'd care about that a whole lot. Both of these have fingerprint sensors. Now, everybody says how great the Apple fingerprint sensor is, and honestly, it pretty well does just work. Just put your finger there, rest it on, there it is. Pretty much every time it just works like that. It's also going to work with Apple Pay, which is rolled out with iOS 8.1 today. So far, NFC and mobile payments really haven't taken off, but given the number of iPhones out there, the number of merchants and credit card companies on board, I have a feeling that it's going to be a useful feature, and generally speaking, much more secure than using the magnetic strip on your credit card at easily breached point-of-sale systems these days. Now, the Samsung also has a fingerprint sensor, and they started out with actually the Galaxy S5, and both the Galaxy Alpha and the Note have improved fingerprint sensors. Now with the Note 4, it's a swipe down sensor, as has been on Samsung's, and you swipe like that, and there you go. See, it doesn't always get it the first time. It's better than the Galaxy S5, but it sometimes takes a couple of tries. Now, the new thing that you can do is actually enroll the side of a finger too. So there you have it. If you can actually manage to hold this phone and not drop it and swipe sideways, you can do so. Of course, the iPhone also supports the sideways thing, but I think in a phone this big, you're tempting the fates by trying to do it that way. When it comes to phablet features, Samsung's on their 4th generation of Note, so they really, really have a lot of cool features down. So tap that, comes up as a window mode. Now you can still do the split screen mode if you want. So this is kind of like multitasking on your computer. I think a lot of people are going to like that. Tap on that. I have another floating window. I can move it around with the pen. I can resize these things. So that's something that I think a lot of folks can relate to right away. It works like it does on their computer. There's enough screen real estate here that you can actually, potentially make use of that. You can maximize something just by dragging it up and keep the other floating window there. Pretty cool stuff right there. And then there's the S Pen itself. So for those of you who really like this active digital pen based on Wacom technology, very precise for writing, much better than a capacitive stylus. You can put your hand on the screen when you write. It won't vector, it won't pick up your hand input. Good for art, nice, accurate, all that sort of thing. If that appeals to you, then, well, obviously the Note 4 is pretty much the only game in town that has that feature. When it comes to phablet-oriented sort of applications, Apple has customized some of their apps. This is a Messages app right here, so you have a 2-pane view in landscape mode. That's about it right now. Now, the thing is with the Apple ecosystem, obviously, yes, it works in landscape too in the home screen, you never know what developers are going to come up with. They're a very creative bunch, and I bet a bunch of the applications are going to start making very good use of the screen real estate with split screen views and stuff like that. The CNN app already does that, for example, as well. So what this will be like 6 months from now, it's going to be very interesting. In terms of customizations that Apple has done specifically to be phablet-y, they haven't touched the OS as much as Samsung. It's the usual, keep it simple, keep it working like an iPhone. In the same vein that folks said an iPad was just a big iPhone at first. Of course, I don't think people even bother saying that anymore, but still, the UI is pretty much the same as it is on a smaller iPhone. And that can be a good thing if you like it simple and you like it consistent. But if you're a power user and you want to do that window multitasking, all that sort of thing, just like the customizable widgets on Android, putting different ROMs on there, although this guy is different. AT&T has a locked bootloader, a little bit harder to ROM on that. You get the idea. Simple, customizable, a pocket computer. That is really what it comes down to. And the pen, those are the two important things to keep in mind when trying to decide between these phones. They both cost around the same. $299 starting price on contract in the U.S. and around $750 or so full retail, depending on your carrier, a little bit more, a little bit less. For the Galaxy, there's more price variation. It is set in stone for the iPhone 6 Plus. One more point is battery life. The Note series has always been really, really impressive when it comes to battery life. So far, our AT&T review unit, it's been okay. It hasn't been as stellar as previous generation Note 4s. Now, I know overseas Samsung has already released an update that's supposed to improve battery performance. We haven't gotten it here yet on AT&T. I hope we do, but it's an all-day phone, but it used to be, with a Note, you could go 2 days, day and a half. So far, it's pretty much been an all-day phone. That's the way it's rolling with us. Not a whole lot of applications or background processes installed on there. It's just the way it's doing, and that's with the Snapdragon CPU. That's all that we have available in the U.S. The iPhone 6 Plus, slightly smaller battery. I mean, they're both pretty big, 2915 milliamps versus 3220 here. But the iPhone 6 Plus really is a 2-day phone. It just really keeps going. One thing that stands in favor of the Galaxy Note 4 is it does support Quick Charge 2.0, and it's one of the few phones that actually comes with a Quick Charge charger in the box. You don't have to buy it extra like you do with some Motorola or HTC phones. And they say in half an hour you can get up to 50% charge back. Of course, the battery in the Note 4 is a bit bigger than the average smartphone, but really it does charge incredibly fast. In a half an hour, I've seen it go up by about 35 to 40%, no problem. So it fights back a little bit there. As long as you have access to a charger, you can top that thing up miraculously quickly. So in the end, the moral of this story is they're both really nice phones that I would not mind owning. For the iPhone, as ever, it's that simplicity and generally, on average, higher quality applications, a bit more polished on iOS. Tier 1 games still tend to come out first for the iPhone before they hit Android. Not always, but sometimes. Anyway, it's polish, it's simplicity. That's what it's about. Galaxy Note 4 is that computer in your pocket. It is super powerful. It's very customizable. It has the pen. Which of those appeals to you? You should base your decision on that. So that's the fabulous phablet, the Note 4 versus the first really big iPhone, the iPhone 6 Plus. And as ever, every year, and part of this really depends on whether you like Android or iOS better. Some of you have strong preferences. Goodness only knows. Others of you are more open-minded, so you get the idea. Simplicity, ease of use as ever. That's the thing with the iPhone. Extensibility, customizability, that's the thing going for Android. And particularly for the Note 4, for those of you who use the pen, there really is nothing like it when it comes to that. I'm Lisa from Mobile Tech Review. Be sure to watch our reviews of each of these, read our written reviews, and hit that subscribe button.